Yeah. I hear you,
Oh,
bro.
nice. You're recording this. This is brilliant, man. This is so cool.
Savage.
Stay savage. This is.
Yeah.
I need to buy one of these for Sylvie. I promised him one. I said when I win my first comp, I'm gonna get you one.
Yeah.
That was the deal. I remember that. So I need to pay good at that one day.
Bro, it sounds like we've got a shit ton of t-shirts we're going to make for Sylvia. Another one's going to be that what means rest one. What means rest?
I have to scroll back through the chat sometimes at the end of the day, and I'm just like, why is this?
Yeah. That is jokes, man. You know what? I had a feeling it was like, I'm going to sign in. I'm going to make my name Brown.
Yeah.
And you're going to be either Big Brown or something like that. I just fucking knew it.
Either way, man, it all works. It all works. I'm gonna take you next door. 1 second.
Yeah, sure thing, man.
Yeah, man.
What's been going on? How you holding up?
Yeah, all good, man. All good. It's just proper weird, isn't it? It's proper strange. I mean, I think I don't know. My auntie made a really cool point yesterday. She came over. She just drove over, and we just met her outside, and she goes. This is like so random, but I think it's really valid. She's like, as Muslims, right? So we pray like 5 times a day, right? And we have this like given routine, and along with the prayer, it's like, oh, you're gonna go basically wash yourself, and then stand there and have this like 5-minute thing where you bow your head or whatever. And she was like, I feel like a lot of people don't have that, and they would benefit from it so much just to have that, like, no matter what you're doing in your life, no matter like, oh, if work stops or if you can't go outside, you have this 5 times a day set routine, like that's happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just thought, and I was like, wow, that's such a powerful thing. I've totally taken it for granted in the sense that we've just always had that. Like, I've not always prayed like religiously, but like trying to do so now. And I just thought, wow, that's a really strange way of looking at it, but it makes total sense.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah. You see people kind of like not necessarily have a good routine right now. Like, obviously, we deal with clients, right? So we know that people kind of freaking out a little bit. And like, I talk to TJ a lot, and he's like, "Yeah, I've got clients crying on the phone and stuff." I'm like, "Wow, that's powerful. That's intense." Yeah. But then you kind of think, oh well, if they just had some kind of semblance of like a set routine, it would help. But, yeah, man. Strange times.
It's so true, man. Because I tell you, the thing that I struggled with was just it was the routine. It totally threw me off, and I didn't realize it until about like 10 days later. So I was feeling sick, right?
Okay.
So I started self-isolating at like the beginning of March, basically, because I'm reading about this stuff. There's a whole list of symptoms. I have it a little bit, but I don't know. So I'm just going to make sure that I don't mess around with this. I'm going to play it safe.
Yeah.
My housemate got pretty sick. He got sick. Got symptoms as well. It was a bit rough for a couple of days, and then so it's like, all right, well, I'm just going to stay at home. And then just the idea of going to work is something so simple, but just wasn't doing it. And then obviously with everything that's going on as well, so it's like, all right, do you even have a business that you're going to have?
Yeah, man, that's so true.
So the whole strain of all that, and you're completely thrown out of your routine. So you're not thinking, you're not thinking clearly. And then I just had to snap myself out of it. I was like, whoa, okay. Yeah. I realized that I've wasted days basically.
Yeah.
Now it's time to, all right, just crack back on and create my own routine again. So it was very quickly went from, all right, I'm usually in bed by like 11 o'clock and I can wake up around 7:30 and that feels great.
Yeah.
I'll go to bed at like 2 a.m. with like no direction, and then waking up at like 9 o'clock and being like, why do I feel like I'm messed up? It's because I just didn't have anything going. So I've just like reset myself, going back into it and just creating my own routine again.
Dude, that's so powerful, man. Yeah, it just shows, isn't it, like how fragile we are. Like a little bit of change from regular bits, and we're just all over the place. Like right now, I feel quite tired being at home delivering sessions from my room. I'm like, what is that? Like, how is that even a thing? Like, because I'm in that space there where my bed is, and where like I just usually chill out. I'm just generally through the day I feel like just a bit more lethargic. And you think normally I'm out of the door by 4 a.m. I'm at the gym with TJ. We train. Then I go to the other gym and I work with clients, and then I'm coming home and then I'm going back, and it's like always on the move. And obviously you live in London, so it's like non-stop. But, someone presses like pause on your life, and then you just like everything just goes out the window. It's crazy, man.
It's weird, man. It's like, that was one thing. No matter how early I got up, I'd always see a fucking training session done by you in the Whoop group.
Yeah.
It was like, wait, when are you doing this?
You know, bro, I love it. I absolutely love it. I miss that. I miss that more than I miss anything else. Like, because we got into a great routine of getting up at legit. I'll show you the alarm on my phone. It's still there. 3:15 every morning. Like up at 3:15. I would, and then literally 3:15, and then I'd get up, go to the bathroom, get myself sorted out. Like if I've got to pack meals for the day, I get them out of the fridge or for whatever. Get my like bag full of like towel, change of clothes for work, the food and whatnot. Get out the door, drive to the gym. We're at the gym, literally like opening the key door at the gym at like 4 in the morning. At 4 in the morning, I started the session. TJ's usually there straight away. I'm there, and we train till like 5:15. And then we know that, okay, that's done. Like it's in line with like, we listen to a lot of like stoicism and all this kind of stuff, right? Say again?
While you're training?
No, not while you're training, just like in life, right? So like if I've got an audiobook, or if I've got like stillness is the key, or like obstacle is the way, it always talks about like the things you surround yourself with, or the questions that you ask yourself. And I found that doing that first thing in the morning is just, dude, there's nothing like it, man. There's nothing like it. Hear me, bro? Oh, you're gone for a second. Can't hear you.
How's that?
Yeah, got you.
Yeah, sorry, man. Yeah.
Nice, cool.
Was it? Yeah, so listen to some stoicism in the morning as well, like on your way to training and stuff.
No. Not listening to it, like just listening to through life. Like I'll put it on in the evenings or whatever. But a common theme is always like routine, like morning routine. Like if you listen to like Robin Sharma.
No,
so he's a guy who he wrote like 5 a.m. Club and The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, like all these like
okay.
Parables about like just life in general, right? And he's always talking about like owning your morning and waking up and doing what you need to do to set yourself up right. And I feel like we fell into a routine which was like, get up every day. It doesn't matter how you feel. Even if you feel shit, you show up at the gym, and we're going to adapt the session somehow. Like we won't go super hard. We won't spar that day. We won't kind of go crazy, but we're just there. And the active like, oh, I'm so warm, I'm so cozy. Get out of bed right now. Like get up, get out of bed. Do the hard thing right now.
Yeah.
Honestly, bro, I can't tell you how good it feels to have that be the way you start your day. And it just honestly proper powerful, man. Proper powerful. Like the first time you do it, you're just smashed. You're like, why are we here? Like, are we getting anything productive done? But the more you do it, the more your body, the circadian rhythm will adapt, and you can catch up on sleep through the day, like because you got up in the morning, and by the time you finish your session, you've got an hour before clients come in anyway, and you got time to tap away on your keyboard, do a little bit of work, and it's just a great routine, man. Great routine. And I should explain, like the reason we're there at 4 is because TJ starts work at 6. I start at 6:30. So like first client 6, his is in at 6, mine's in at 6:30, and it's just the way we could get sessions in, and both of us are crazy enough to be like, yeah, I'll see you at the gym at 4 in the morning. Yeah, cool. Like just get on with it.
That's great, man.
That's it. No, that's.
I fully buy it. I like because I started doing the same thing where I was like, what do I need to do to make myself feel like I'm going to have a productive day? And when I got into the routine of like wake up. I'm not like you guys. I want to wake up at like 7 a.m. Like that's a really good time. Between 7 and 8 is a really good time for me. I've worked that out over the period, and then and just like early days where it was like,
go on, carry on.
Yeah, cool, man. It was just like early days where it was like I would finish work at like 8 o'clock in the evening, and I wouldn't get home till 10. But then I would be starting up again the next morning. I basically had like, from the moment I got home to the moment I had to be back at work was like 9 hours again. So 6 or 7 hours worth of sleep. And I did like doing that for like a year and a half, and I was just getting drained like proper mad. Like every 10 weeks, I realized I was just feeling like I was burnt out and I needed to take a week off. And then when I changed, so I just basically, I was like, I'm just going to decide I'm not going to train before 8 a.m. Yeah, sorry, I'm not going to start working before 8 a.m. And then stopped hating my first client just because I wasn't tired. I was like, this is amazing. And then I remember going, I was like, I haven't actually taken any time off because I was refreshed. I had enough sleep and I was just playing on and I just felt better. And then, so when I figured all that kind of stuff out, and it's still a process as well. So now what I realize the thing I need to do is if I wake up in the morning, is like, and like everybody's like Sylvia always bangs on. My old instructor, jits instructor would always say to me, is like, you're just too relaxed. I need you to just get angry or something so that you can get good at jits. And so I know that I have a pretty like calm baseline. So I need to kind of G myself up a little bit. So the thing I started doing was I wake up in the morning and I just start Wim Hof thing. So
oh shit, and nice.
Yeah. So that, because the way that you're made up, I would do good. You know, my mindset got some sense of urgency now. I've got to do something. And the next thing I'll do is like whatever my rehab routine is. So like spend 30 minutes just getting sharp with my body. So whenever I do that, I always feel like it's just like the baseline is covered, just like what you guys feel like, is that baseline is covered and I don't feel stressed to take on the rest of the day. Whereas if I've left it and it's got to like 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm like, I've got stuff to do, but I have routine, where am I going to do it? And then you start building that frustration up. And then I've realized that, and it's like, nah, just straight off the bat, it doesn't matter. The most important thing in the day, do that first, and then move on, because then everything else feels better.
Too right, man. Too right. That's like, there's so many ways you can go with that, but yeah, man, it's almost like if you was to look at the day as a life, and you said, okay, right, well, I'm going to teach this person or this kid the right thing at the start of the day / life, and he'll go on through his life be like just dominating because of it. And we'll look at like the weaknesses, or we'll look at like the things that you don't want to do, but address the, like you mentioned, like the injuries or prehab and stuff like that. Get those things sorted so your mind's in a good place. I think, yeah, man, there's no other way to do it. It just you feel so accomplished and so like ready to just get about it. You know what I mean? Nothing else is difficult after that. Everything else is routine. You know what I mean? Yeah, man.
Yeah, fully. Definitely. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought you said something else. I think I was just, but because that goes with a little bit about what you said the other day in your Insta story as well, which was cracking me up. Besides throwing Sam and Mr. Prempy's in, it's like, guess we're jacked to the tits. Yeah. But where you're like surrounding yourself with like just good people who have that mentality to essentially just carry on or whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
Because that whole piece of it is like it's setting that. What am I trying to say? It's like that setting of the routine early on, and then your baseline changes. So it's and then you have that, and you do that thing, and you do it better and better and better and better, and then a year from now, like you're all the way up here. And so you've gone from here to here, and then if you look back, you don't even recognize what it was like to be here again because your baseline is up here. So
fuck yeah, man.
You like footy, right?
Yeah. I'm shit at playing. Like, genuinely, I can kick a ball real hard. Yeah, that's it. Like, I expect if you want me to shoulder barge somebody off the ball, yeah, I'm your guy. But apart from like being skillful, passing the ball kind of straight, ask somebody else. Ask somebody else. Yeah, that's me. But yeah, what was you gonna say?
No, the only thing I was going to say, because I don't really care about football much these days, right? But I grew up back in the day with like Paul Scholes, Roy Keane, Becks, and Giggs, and all that lot.
Okay.
Like Schmeichel.
It makes sense why you don't care this much today. It makes sense. Being a United fan.
Yeah, like you just watch. Yeah, of course, man. That's the only team I knew when I was like 7 years old, because what else, right?
Nice.
But like,
Yeah.
but like Schmeichel would say about Paul Scholes, he goes, "You never ever know that he had a bad game because his baseline was like a 7 out of 10."
Brilliant.
And then so
yeah.
with him, he was like he'd be able to hide because he just wasn't shit. You know, he was just so good at building up his baseline that it was
That's
like
a great shout, man.
the worst he ever performed was like a 7 out of 10.
Yeah. Such a great shout, man. And you know what's helped me a lot with that is you ever read it, like Eckhart Tolle?
Oh yeah, I know him. Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. That's that book, man. Proper, just
Right.
flip the script. I used to listen to that on the way to driving to Silview sessions at Ray Stevens. Like that would be like top tip, right? If you don't have a hands-free kit in your car, get your phone, put it in your hoodie, and just pull that drawstring kind of tight so it just sits in there like a bag, and you can just listen to your audiobook in your. No one's gonna, no copper's gonna pull you over, nothing. Like it works. It works. And if you ever see me in the car, my hoodie's like zipped up, pulled tight, you know there's a phone in there somewhere. And yeah, man, it just talks about like, just absorbing that stuff. And like, I find that it's interesting what you're talking about before, that arousal, like being properly aroused for jiu-jitsu or being like fully awake. And I think whereas your arousal might be like under aroused, maybe like you have to kind of find that peak. Whereas mine, I feel I'm always at that peak. I can get there super quick, but then when I'm there, I'm distracted. Like my optimal arousal will be this side and be like, oh, okay, I need to bring myself down a bit, and I need to kind of like feel the floor beneath my feet. I need to feel the breath coming in a little bit. I need to kind of slow down so I can think and then be fast in the moment. You know what I mean? And what that audiobook gave me was a sense that like, this is all you have. You only have this moment. You only have this second. Like a plane could crash through my roof right now and just take me out. I have no chance. Like that is very grounding in the now. And it talks a lot about this in the book, is just the power of now. And I think when you have a grasp of that and you keep that in your head, whether you're sparring, whether you're in a session with a client, whether you're like trying to read something or you're trying to absorb some information, I think it's very, very grounding, and it really gives you that base to build on. And I think the more you spend time doing those reps, and I feel like that's a phrase that I use quite a lot, like do those good reps, like do those reps. Like we know, like, it's volume, right? You build up, and before you know it, your like your muscle mass is different, or your, like you mentioned, your thought process is different, and then you put those together, and now you're not the same person anymore. You know what I mean? You've done so many reps at being this new human that, like you said, the old version of you just seems so basic. Yeah, man. Yeah. I love it, man. I love it.
That's why I call it like I've taken it a lot more seriously this year. And to be honest, man, it's like with everything going down, it's a fucking good thing I started to, which is just like that mindset approach, which is I call it going to the mindset gym. Is just like I'm spending a half hour doing some rehab. I'm going to spend at least half hour just thinking about, like, a big one actually I realized is what are you grateful for? So having that gratitude. And then there's a shit ton of neuroscience around it now as well. It's just basically, you know how like, so you have the external reward system where you set yourself a vision or a goal. And then when you're going towards it, you get that dopamine release. And it's like every time you achieve a little something towards that goal, you get that dopamine pump, and it just keeps you moving towards that goal. So instead of having something external, the same thing we can do internally by practicing gratitude. So if we're talking about everything that we're grateful for in the present moment, everything we're grateful for in the past, but also being grateful for what we're about to achieve in the future. So it's like that vision, but actually acting as if it's happened already. That has the same dopamine neurocircuitry thing going on, and then you feel good, and it makes you feel like it's like it's as if you're achieving a goal. So then you get that same pump, and then so which is crazy to think that just something as simple as if you spent 5 minutes like truly being like in the moment as well, like you say, you get distracted, but like shut everything off and be in the moment and talk for 5 minutes about Yeah, just say to yourself for 5 minutes, like, okay, I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for, today's a beautiful day. Like, it could be something as simple as I can see the sun shining through my window. I'm grateful for that. And then whatever your goal is in the future is like, I'm grateful for, like, off the top of my head, like getting my purple belt in jiu-jitsu or something like that. Let's just say that was a goal. And then it's like, all right, cool. And then you create that feedback in your brain, and you just get that you're just spending time in your mindset gym basically, and that mentality is getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and then you just see nothing but success for yourself, and then that ends up going back into that feedback loop, just like the other way around. If somebody's not feeling so good and they're feeling a bit depressed, and then they stay in bed for too long, and then they feel like they've wasted a day, and then they feel like it's not worth doing anything, and then you just carry on going through that loop. And you just get unproductive, and the more unproductive you get, you just think, oh, what's the fucking point? And then so you become more and more nihilistic. So just as that's a vicious cycle, doing the exact opposite is a virtuous cycle. It just keeps you going. And it's total building that strength. It's putting those reps in and getting that volume in, so you just feel stronger.
Brilliant, man. Yeah. This is recorded, right?
Yeah.
Fucking sick, bro. Do you know what? That riff was epic. That was so good. That was so good. That was like we need to just press record on that every morning. Just take it in, man. Just take it in. The sweet sound. What's the? I was about to break out into American national anthem there.
Oh, say, can you see?
Big Brown's going in. Everybody listen up. Just play that from the bleachers. Just everybody, just stop what you're doing and just hear this now. So good, man. So good.
I'll sound like that for you. I'll send that to you later.
Yes, please.
That's what I was doing shit like that earlier, actually, because a client of mine, she was just like, can you just send me the exercises and stuff so I don't forget how to do it? Because obviously when they're with me, it's easy, but now they're not. They just need a little bit more impetus. And so I was just like, yeah, all right, I'm just going to put some videos together, but I'm just going to make a library of them now. So I've for example, I just did a few T-spine extension, tabletop position, crab, and then some T-spine rotations. And I was like, instead of addressing it to one person, I'm just going to just have a little library of them and just going to edit them a little bit and then just play them out. So yeah, so that was, got to do that kind of shit now as well.
You're right, man. You're right. Yeah. I find that super valuable. I really thankful now that the first couple of days of being off, I just thought YouTube, just do it, just do the channel, do the videos, and you gave me some feedback on one of the videos. A couple other guys give me some feedback on other videos, and I think, okay, right, how can I next level this? How can I next level this? It goes back to the same conversation we were just having about spending time doing those reps. It's okay, you do a rep, and you do a shit one, or you do an okay one, and then you kind of you focus on the good bits, and you think, okay, right, how can I make the shit bits better? And man, just one big progression, right? It feels so good. It feels so good to have that feedback. And now I'm going to go back and do what you've just said. So I'm going to go back and probably redo 3-4 of the videos, shoot some more videos today. We've got some time, and it's you're very, very clear on where you need to improve. And I think that only comes from doing it in the first place, and being in the good, grateful mindset like you're talking about, because then you're like, okay, what can I next receive well? And yeah, man, it just rolls on, So good.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah.
That's what you done, man. You smashed out a bunch of videos really quickly as well.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's just about getting started, because if you don't start, or if you're thinking about too much about I need, like I mentioned, the sound quality wasn't great, but you'll fix that. I was like, just so you know, the sound wasn't great on this one, but that's gonna be a good video. You're like, yeah, fine, I'll just sort that out next time. And then you pick up the mic, like I've been doing. I've picked up a mic now, especially with having to go online. I can't rely on the computer. I have to have a good quality mic. And so I picked that up, and that's really helping, because my voice comes through crisp and clear regardless of where I am in the room to my clients. So shit like that makes such a difference. But it's just, if you didn't start, then you don't know what you got to get right. So you started, and that's sick. And you follow Kelly Starrett?
Yeah.
Man, I was watching his stuff when he basically started making the videos on YouTube.
I think I was too, bro. In his garage, right, with his kids around and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like the first ever video he made, he was just in his garden. He was like, "All right, you're gonna do a squat," basically, and it was just, he just basically said, "I'm just gonna make a video a day and just put it out there." And like 10 years later, this is where the guy's at now.
That's sick, man.
It's incredible. It was just got to start and just keep making it. Is like he's a good model for just. You just have to start. You just got to, like, you don't even have to know where you're going with it. You just know that you want to do this. So just fucking do it. And then over time, just become something bigger and better. And so just kind of taking that, and no time like the present to that kind of stuff right now. Yeah,
right. I think I was talking to Nick Daniel yesterday.
Oh yeah, how's he doing?
Actually, yeah, he's really good. We chat every couple of weeks. We chat, and I'm really grateful, because I have him as like a mentor kind of role. He's always been there when I was at UP. He was always there, kind of like offering advice and more so to me, I felt, than other people. And I think whether he saw some kind of like, oh, this guy kind of respects how I am and who I am and whatever. I don't know whether it was that or whatever, but I've always felt I've had that kind of relationship with him. And so even now, both of us have left, and we just have this kind of dialogue back and forth. And I was actually talking to him about some coaching, like talk to him about like how he can help me progress myself in the way I'm training myself and just things I've not thought of before. So totally lost my train of thought. Where was I going to go with that?
Maybe mentorship?
Ran away from me. Yeah. It'll come back. It's in there somewhere. It's in there. It's too big not to be still being there somewhere.
Power of now, man. Power of now.
Yeah, that's it, bro. That's it. It will come back. But what was I saying? So yeah, we're working on some coaching stuff together. Oh, came back. So he was talking about how depression. He was like, I heard that depression was defined. He said this is a Tony Robbins quote, and he said that Tony Robbins defines depression as when you're not aligning with yourself. Like any moment when you're not aligned with yourself. And like,
when you buy that.
Yeah, same, man. When he said it, I was just like, that is legit. That is super legit. And you talked about earlier about days when you just waste and you wake up late and you spend the day in bed and stuff. And you're just not on your game. You're just not on you. And like we started to have that. Me and TJ would have that with training. And we'd get up and one of us would say, okay, you know what? I'm feeling tired today. Can we just leave it? And maybe the other one would go in. And now you're there and you've started your day late and your routine's totally off. And you think, you know what? I'm just going to, there's nothing that after that kind of you feel you're building on strong foundations because you've started the day wrong. And man, I feel like that in line with what you were saying before about being in the moment, being kind of present, being grateful, starting when you're supposed to start. I think all those things are just so integral to us kind of constantly planning forward. And when you said it about like who you are today versus who you're going to be in a year's time if you keep on with this track, so powerful, man. So powerful.
Those incremental gains, you can't. We just don't get it, right? It's just the same thing with the virus, where it's like stuff is exponentially increasing. What is it? It's an exponential thing, and the brain and the human brain, we just don't get it. We just don't compute that because it's like, oh, it doesn't seem like it's that bad. It's killed a couple thousand people. Like more people than that die every year. It's like no. That's not the point. Is you're not going to notice what's going to happen in 3 weeks' time, when we're completely overwhelmed by the whole thing if we don't decide to do something about it now. So it's the same in that where you're just making incremental gains, but because they just build up on each other, everything's just better. It's like just the program that you got me on. Started training since September. Well, I started changing stuff since September. Me and you chatted about training since October, and I haven't gone crazy. It's like we've talked about this, right? I haven't done 4 or 5 sessions a week and just smashed it out and be like, yeah. This is the thing that I need. And I've been patient with the whole thing. I've trained no more than twice a week, basically, or 3 times, a couple of times, and picked up an injury in the middle of it where I was laid out for 3 weeks. Yeah. And then got myself rehabbed and then came back on the program again. But again, didn't go straight in hard at the level where I was at before I got the injury. I took it back down a notch and just patiently was like, okay, yeah, cool. This deadlift, all right, that felt good again. So next time I'm going to go a little bit more intense. So what is this? We're April now. The change is crazy. is like even 3 months in, like you could see it as well because I sent you the pictures, but just seeing the change. But it's not just it's like what it represented as well, like how I felt in my body. I just felt so much stronger, so I felt more confident. But it was incremental. It wasn't like you had to do everything all at once. And that's the point as well, is like realizing that all or nothing kind of doesn't work. When all in, and you're trying to, like, when it's not the habit to do that, how long are you going to last for until you kind of burn yourself out, basically, or you just get sick of doing that because you've forgotten everything else. You haven't really taken into account everything else that goes on in your life. So whereas with taking this approach, where it's like, I'm just going to build it up and build it up and build it up and build it up until, again, I don't recognize that baseline. So I can't go back to not training at least a couple times a week now because it just doesn't feel good to not do that. And I'm building more training on top of that because of how it makes me feel and how I feel like just essentially a better human being for doing it as well, because it's a way of me fulfilling my potential. So again, but it's all been incremental. It's not been something crazy. And and when you approach it in that manner, you start to realize that that's essentially the best way to do it, where you don't even notice you're doing it. That's why if you take stock and look back a year, you're like, oh shit, yeah, that's the way it used to be. You kind of you take stock, and that's how you kind of remind yourself. Whereas while you're doing it, you almost, in a way, you don't even realize it's happening because it's just an incremental thing, and you're just being consistent, and then that consistency breeds that success that you are essentially looking for. And then on top of that, the key thing I keep saying to you as well is, this is just the beginning, man. This is just the beginning. Because
that's the one, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It is. It's like, all right, 6 months of training is like, what is that? It's not a long time. You're still a novice lifter. But the point being that you can always get better, right? Or you can always do things a little bit better. So that's why I keep saying it's just the beginning, because ultimately, even though you and we coach people to basically live healthier livings, I'm still learning how to do that myself. But the more I learn it, and the better I get at it, the more authentic it is, and the better I can teach that to someone else as part of my living. So it's the knock-on effects of that kind of stuff is amazing. Amanda, just wanted to say some stuff about that depression stuff that Nick mentioned as well. Yeah, fully. Like, if you're not aligned, if your core values and your behaviors aren't aligned, there's no way you're going to be living like that meaningful life, right? So, because I like what Jordan Peterson says about it. It's not about being happy; it's about leading a meaningful life. Because ultimately, happy is kind of, in a way, it's a luxury. If he says a great line actually, which was, I'm going to paraphrase it because I can't remember it exactly, but it was basically, it's a luxury to live a life where you're happy, but it's a moral obligation to live. Oh wait, it's a luxury to do what makes you happy. It's a moral obligation to do what you find meaningful. I was like, oh man, that's some deep shit. For me, that was powerful, and the distinction is massive, because ultimately you can do stuff like, which is hedonistic. You can do something in the moment, impulsive, which makes you feel happy, but then 3 hours later, or a day later, a week later, it doesn't make you happy. Whereas if you're doing something meaningful, you're going to have plenty of shit days doing it, but you still feel good about it. You know what I mean? It's like, because you're doing something which is more important than just being happy. So I found that, really, really helpful. It's just such a simple way to put it. And you find somebody who can put something like that so simply, that's changed it for me. So that's basically the line. It's a luxury to do what makes you happy. It's a moral obligation to do what you find meaningful. And then so you start to put that together with essentially, like, the core needs, for like core psychological needs that we have to essentially live that meaningful life, which is purpose, self-efficacy, and control over your own life. And when you have those three things, then there is no space for depression to exist.
Yeah.
Depression, anxiety, all that kind of stuff. So if you find yourself like, purpose is essentially, doing that thing, finding out that thing that you find meaningful. And then control is having control over your ability to do that. It's control over your own life, essentially. The things that you can control, you control it. The things you can't control, you let it go. And being able to differentiate that, because a lot of times, like the uncertainty that I guess we're all experiencing now, also there's a lot of it coming from the things that people cannot control. So we can't control what's going to go on with the economy. We can't control with how somebody else is going to behave with regards to what we actually need to do with, like, containing the virus, let's say. But we can do our bit, and when you do your own bit, you feel in control, and you feel happier, and you kind of fulfill your own purpose as well. And self-efficacy is essentially having the tools and the resources needed to live that life in control and to fulfill your purpose. And those are always kind of I guess they're always kind of moving as well, especially the self-efficacy bit, because it's like, all right, where am I right now? Where do I need to be? I need to pick up these skills and resources and tools to be able to get to where I want to be. And you're always continually picking that up. And then when you're doing those things, even in your worst moments, you won't be depressed, because that's the way I see it, is like you won't be depressed because you have that meaning attached to every action that you're doing.
So powerful, man. So powerful. That's legit. I need to go back and listen to that again 100%, because what it comes down to, the last point you made there, is like I talk to my clients sometimes about like personal social responsibility. And so for instance, like the guy you helped me out with, Felix. So Felix, the 11-year-old football player.
Oh yeah.
And 11 years old, like year 8. Like when he says like that, it's so adorable, right? Year 8. You remember year 8, right? I remember year 8 like it was yesterday, right? And man, he's aligned himself with playing football. Super happy with it. He's doing very well. He's pushing himself to a level where he's 11 years old, but he's playing in under 14s. Man. And like, at that age, it makes a big difference, right? Like if I play with somebody who's 35, it makes no difference. Like I'm done. But he's 11 and they're 14. It's like, it's a big jump.
I mean, just being just being somebody like an 11-year-old who's born in September and an 11-year-old who's born August the following year in the same year group, the size difference is massive. Such a shout. He's playing with kids 3 years older than him. That's insane.
Yeah. That's madness, right? Madness. And it's like, and his mom is aware enough to know that he's got this passion, so she's going to foster it in him, and she's going to like invest in what she knows that he will be interested in. And then he's there like prepping his meals at 11 years old, doing his homework, which is like split squats at 11 years old, like corrective exercise at 11 years old. You think, what this is like?
I am.
So yeah,
he's a better human being than I am. I've got like 34 years to practice that shit. He's amazing at 11.
So good, man. So good. I hear it, and I just think now the tie back to what you were saying was, he's 11. He goes to school, and the other kid has a packed lunchbox, and his packed lunchbox is full of crisps and full of like full fat yogurt, or just full of rubbish that child shouldn't be eating because of whatever reason. Now he's putting an example out there where he's like got a box full of greens, a box full of protein, and a box full of carbohydrates, and it's like, okay, right, well, what the hell's Felix doing? Like, why are we not taking advantage of, or like looking at that, like what is he doing now for his wider circle? Now his friends have started coming to the gym. Now his friends are asking about meal prep, and as a result of him doubling down on the things you were just mentioning, his now wider circle is now being massively positively affected. Whereas he could just go along with the rigmarole of like normal life and think nothing of it, but he's aligned himself with a goal which is nothing like that, and now as a result, everybody else is seeing it and they're all coming forward as well. It's like you're a leader at 11 years old, man, and it's like, bro, it's so powerful.
Oh, that makes
so
me
powerful. Tell me about it, man. I went, and his mum come to me the other day, and this is probably, I can say this outright, the proudest moment I've ever had at work. Like the proudest. This went straight to the top, like whack the hammer, bing, right to the top. Like, she goes, "Oh, you've changed his life."
Wow.
And I was like, "Oh, man. What do you say, man? What do you say?" And do you know what, bro? It was just 100% the proudest moment as a personal trainer ever. Like,
bro, that's so big.
So happy. And she was like, "You know what? He was 11 years old, and he's happy with his training. He's moving forward like this and whatever." But before we started training, she kind of pulled me aside and was like, "He's not too confident. He knows his ability, but when there's a bigger kid or when there's whatever, he kind of will shy down a little bit." So it would be really good if he was confident enough to kind of go and push his weight around and be strong and kind of be happy with his own self to the level where he can fully play his game. Yeah. So, and she's come back. She's like, "Look, he's doing this. He's the only one in his year squad of 11 that got called to the under 14. The only one." Like, so happy, man. So happy. Just the feels were so real, and I was like, "This is it, man. This is exactly like." And there's no part of that like story that is any way deviated from what you were saying before. Like in every way, if I've then gone and doubled down on the things that I think, okay, are going to make me a better PT, then I'm going to foster that, and I'm going to be grateful for the clients I have, and then it just the journey kind of goes along, and then out of the blue, you get this kind of gift of this client who is friggin' 11. I keep saying it, but he's 11. Like, what the hell? It makes no sense. And you kind of like, life kind of just gives you a gift and just says like, "Look, cool, you've paid your dues. Here, have this," right? And you just think, wow, like that's so nice, man. So good.
Shout out.
Too right, man. Too right. Smashing it. Smash it.
There's so much that I take from that as well. And the simple thing is again, like I'll quote Peterson because he's just easily quotable, but he just talks a lot of freaking sense to me, man. He's like, you're a node in a network, so you can either choose to believe that nothing you do matters, or you can choose to believe that everything you do matters. And you can, whatever your belief is, physically, whatever you do or don't do does actually matter, though, because if you weren't the PT that you are, you're not affecting his life, and it's not changing the lives of the people around him. Whereas you do take it seriously, and you do put that effort into be better and give him the best, and then he feels like a much better human being just by doing his own thing, and without him saying it to anyone else, without him trying to influence anyone else, he is influencing other people to be better. So the knock-on effect is way bigger than we'll ever see it. And so you just have to double down and like do the shit that matters, and then everybody else benefits whether you see it or not. And that's huge. That's what I love about that, because you're doing your thing, and then it's influencing this kid who's influencing probably a dozen other kids, and then his mum feels better for it as well. He feels more confident. He's excelling at what he's doing. It's just like the knock-on effects are crazy. And
Too right, man.
I love that, because one of my favorite stories is a client from like 5 years ago, where he used to have a back problem, and while he was away on a family trip to the States, he was like visiting cousins and stuff. He took his lacrosse ball with him, because I was like, look, when you do your exercises, start off by loosening up your back with the lacrosse ball, and then do the drills that I showed you. And then so he's lying there, he's like rubbing himself up against the lacrosse ball with his cousins just standing around, being like, "What the hell are you doing? This looks ridiculous." And he's like, "Well, you've got a back problem. You've got a back problem. Don't knock it. Try it." And they tried it, and they were like, "Whoa, actually, I feel a lot better for it." And then they go out and they go and buy themselves a ball, and they're able to take care of themselves. So he tells me this when he comes back, and I was like, "Bro, I've shown you this drill for you so you can take care of yourself, but then because you become quite effective at it, you know what you're talking about in terms of taking care of yourself. There's no harm in trying to see if it helps anybody else. Turns out it does. That's 3,000 miles away. You know, I've never met these people, never going to have any contact with them, but because I've helped you, you've helped other people.
Yeah.
You know, and that's always the kind of like the gratifying part of it as well. Where you just,
man,
that's just so sick, because you just don't realize how many people you can actually have an effect on. So it's better to essentially live your life knowing that you have an influence, and rather everything that you do matters, rather than the other way around, because the other way around, and no one really benefits. Everybody just suffers.
Couldn't agree more, man. Couldn't agree more. And I think it's like, sometimes it can feel like a bit of a weight where you feel like, oh, nothing I do matters, so I'll just kind of shrug it off. And then the other way around is like, everything I do matters, and that can feel like it's bearing on me. So it's bearing on everything I do and every decision I make. And you see it kind of break people a little bit, where oh, it's that important. And then you don't really know where to draw the line. Like, can I have fun sometimes? Can I goof off sometimes? Or do I have to just be this like moral kind of compass 24/7? But I think you just find your north. I think when you start giving this stuff a go and you live this way, and you realize that, like in that story, it's proof. It's complete proof. And there's billions of other stories like that. That, you know what, this is just so legit, man. It's so legit. And there's really the end of your like time. You don't ever want there to be, oh, but you could have done this.
Yeah.
And that's like I think that's a Jordan Peterson one as well, right? Where he's like, hell on earth is meeting the version of yourself you could have been at your last day. Like,
right, okay.
Yeah.
I've heard Frank Mir give his own version of that.
Oh wow, okay, that's interesting.
Like from back in the day, he said something like, you know what hell is? Like the true definition of hell is when you die and you meet the person you could have become.
Yeah. Same thing. Yeah. Wow, that's interesting, man. Yeah, you totally see that.
How did you say it though?
Hell on earth was the only difference. Hell on earth is meeting at the end of your days, meeting the version of yourself that you could have been. I'm sure I've heard him say that in like when he was on JRE or something. And it's so legit, man. It's so legit. Yeah, completely.
It's completely. And that's the thing, is like, so it's basically, it's the idea of fulfilling your own potential, right? So, and that's not something that you can just wake up and be like, I'm fulfilling it. It's not going to happen. Because if it did, then freaking great, you know, like we'll be living on the moon already or whatever, you know, it just wouldn't be an issue. But because it's not something that is easily attained, you just have to start somewhere. So you can't just be like, all right, well, I don't want to have that version of hell on earth, so all of a sudden it's different. It's like, no, you have to kind of just work your way towards that. And like, so it kind of like, I think, I can't remember who the author is. I think it's Carol Dweck, who did growth mindset versus fixed mindset. But there was basically like, there's an experiment, or rather they tried it and tested it with a bunch of kids in like some interstate schools or something like that in the States, where they did some tests, and the ones who did really well, they said to them, oh, you must be really talented, well done on your good score. And then for the other group, they said, oh, you did really well, you must have worked really hard at this. And so the ones who were told that you must be gifted, essentially, is like, this isn't exactly how it went down, but this is basically it, is they were kind of afraid to try, like the next time around. And and the ones who were told you must have worked really hard at this, they didn't care about making mistakes, so they would try harder and harder and harder until they got better and better and better. They appreciate the process, whereas the others were like, well, I'm supposed to be gifted. If I don't do well at this, that means I'm not gifted anymore, so I'm not gonna put myself out there, that kind of thing. And
that's really interesting, man. Really interesting.
and like, so when I think back to what I used to do, like early days at school, like I feel like I was like drilled with that fixed mindset. So I was like, you're good at this, stop fucking around, kind of thing. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And if I am fucking around, does that mean I'm not good at it? Or like, I just couldn't. I got to my adult life and realized that a lot of the kind of language that I got exposed to growing up was from school, was just basically, you're good, you're smart, you're smart, you're smart, you're smart, as opposed to, oh, it takes effort, and you can have the smarts, but it doesn't mean anything unless you put the effort. So for me, putting effort in was like, it always felt difficult. So it always felt like, oh, you know what, fuck this. So like the first hurdle, it would always be, if something got hard, I'd be like, yeah, screw it, I'm done. But I've had to really plow through that, and that's still something that's probably the biggest thing that I'm always working on, which is, if something gets hard, you have to keep going, because the moment it gets hard, that's actually really good. I have to keep telling myself that, because that means you're getting somewhere with it.
Yeah.
And jiu-jitsu for me was a really good learning curve for that, because you can be my situation was, I went from I got my like third stripe in my white belt, and then a month later he promoted me to blue belt.
Oh wow.
So yeah, so it happened really quickly. It happened in the space of like 10 months. And I still maintained, like, all right, looking at it, trying to look at it objectively, I was like, look, it's still too early. But it was too early to get my promotion, because I just didn't feel like I had the basics down as well as I do, as well as I could have done. And that's the most important thing for me, is like, do I understand the basics as well as I could? And then, yeah, okay, cool, then I can move on to the next level. But sometimes it's the flip side, is like, you just need that push to get you to the next level as well. But it went from, okay, cool, I'm establishing myself as a higher level white belt, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time practicing at this level, and practicing on people who are just coming in and not quite as good as me. But then I got my blue, and I went from being, okay, at the top of the white belt hierarchy, to, I'm going to get smashed every fucking time I show up to training.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fuck's sake, man. It's going to be hard. Just when I thought, okay, I might compete now as well, because I feel like I'm getting somewhere with this, I just went straight into blue belt. And I was like, all right, well, I got to go to the advanced classes now, and I don't know what the fuck I'm doing anymore again.
Wow.
And so it just made me realize, like, okay, I know a bunch of techniques. It took me about 6 months to, first of all, get really comfortable that I'm a blue belt now. And then the second thing I realized was, because that's, I've had discussions about this, like, with some people as well, but when you get to blue belt, there's always a massive drop off, right? And then my housemate Matt, he's purple belt, and he goes, look, a big part of that is because how long do people do hobbies for? When they try something new, how long do they carry on doing it for? You could be a blue belt in a lot of different things over the course of your lifetime, because you're just like, oh, I'm going to do this for a little bit of time and see how I go, and then move on to the next thing. Then also my thinking is also, that's when it gets hard, right? Because you're going to go back to getting smashed all the time. So sometimes you might just think, I'm just not going to bother. I'm not going to bother turning up, because just when I thought I was getting somewhere, it just got super hard again. And so what I started thinking at that stage was that I do know stuff, but I don't know how to make it click. It's almost like, if I'm rolling, it's like, instead of going in there with a purpose, it was always just like, I'm just going to throw whatever technique I know and see if it sticks. But that's not helpful, right? If I do that long term with life, is like, if I'm just like throwing stuff out there and seeing what happens, it's always scattered. You just never feel like you're getting the most out of something. And that's basically what it felt like. So I started realizing that I know a bunch of techniques, but I don't really know what I'm doing with them. And this is where it gets difficult, because it doesn't matter what I know, it matters how I string it together, or it matters what I know conceptually and principally to be able to string all that stuff together. And yeah, I just have to also plow through the fact that I'm going to get smashed all the time as well. So, and just take victory in the little things, like the tiny thing of like, oh, that brown belt, instead of subbing me in 7 seconds, it took him 10 seconds, and yes, that's a victory. That's a celebration. And that actually ties back to what we were talking about earlier with regards to celebrating the wins on the way to a goal and like the dopamine response that you get from that. Because if you don't celebrate the tiny little things, you won't get to the ultimate place that you want to get to. Because because it just ends up making it even harder. So instead of being like, oh, you're like, I fucked up 20 times, but this is what I got out of it. And it took him 10 seconds instead of 7 seconds to sub me. That's a fucking win. I can keep using that. And you kind of have to be a little bit delusional about it as well, right? Because that's what I feel.
Man. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, you have to cut out a bunch of crap and just focus on the right stuff. And that keeps you going. So it's celebrating those tiny wins. That's why like grappling for me is such a good training ground for like life lessons, basically, because it's so obvious to you. It just hits you straight where you think you're good at something and then somebody else can show you up. If you got too much ego, you can get battered down. If you're struggling with something, it's really obvious in something like grappling. And then learning what to do to correct that, and then trying to, instead of looking at all the negative stuff, which is, I mean, the thing you're going to do the most is tap. You know, that's the thing you're going to do the most in your whole career. But how do you overcome that? And that's by celebrating the little wins, basically. So then, for me, how that ties that loop together, which is it's helping me come out of that fixed mindset and approach it with a growth mindset, and always feel like there's abundance there, and then that hard work is kind of getting, or the ability to do hard work is getting drilled into me by choosing to stay with the things that are difficult rather than just being like, fuck it, it's hard, I can just leave that and do the next thing.
Yeah, man. So true. So many truths there. Like, you even go back to the school thing. I used to be scared in school of giving my work in. I used to write like, always try and do, like, say the other kids in the class are doing 3 pages. I would always write 5 pages just because I would want to try and cover every single angle and overdo the work, right? And then at the end of it, when it came to actually giving it in to be marked, I'd be like, no, I don't want to do it. And I would kind of like hide it, or like I wouldn't give it in, because I was scared of having that kind of like, oh, you're a clever kid, pulled down. That was, again, that fixed mindset where it was like, okay, unless this kind of defines my value, defines how good I am, defines how I feel about myself, rather than handing it in and learning from the things I've done wrong, because there's always going to be things you do wrong, and seeing it as like we fail forward. Like, we fail forward. Like, we have to make the mistake to learn from the mistake to go forward. Never having been aware of that, it was always like, okay, no, hide it. And you can, I think, as one of the things that kind of is a bit of a, I think, a gift and a curse at the same time, was being the big kid in school. So it was always like, okay, everyone's kind of scared of you, but then at the same time, you kind of fall into that moniker of, oh, I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm kind of like that guy. Where the story of like David and Goliath is obviously is like I love that.
Yeah, it's like you got the banner as well, so I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna put that in. Fell forward. Right? So many things we could have created a banner for. I just feel like I forgot. But
right now, man. I love it. And it's the whole like story of like David and Goliath, right? So it's like, Goliath doesn't lose because he gets hit with a stone. It's because he doesn't value what David actually has, and he's not sighted enough to see, and that's where the whole one eye thing comes in. Like, that's that actually broken down. I heard that broken down one time in like in a YouTube advert actually one time, and it was like the story, the way it works is that he's so tall, he's so big that he doesn't see that anybody else can have anything else for him. So that's where the whole, he has one eye, like he is a Cyclops, not in the, he is so short-sighted that he can't see what the other option is. You know what I mean? And obviously, like, it takes something so small to offset this big colossus. That's kind of the play on there, and kind of tying that back into being in school is like, you don't see the growth in failing, so you never want to fail. You always want to kind of stay up here, and you want to just kind of keep your nose clean, and you don't see the other side. And I think using people around you later in life to I'm waiting for it. Oh yes. Oh yes.
I'm gonna throw in some random ones later as well.
You're gonna throw some sad ones in, yeah, some mango duck and waffle. What's this thing?
Sheepdog mango. I think that's something when we were teenagers. That's so old.
That's nuts, man. That guy's crazy. Yeah, man. No.
Shout out to Sam.
Huh? Right.
Shout out to Sam.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're right. Legend.
It's free.
Yeah, there we go. Love it. Love it. Big Sam. Oh, there you go. Oh, it's back. Yeah, man.
Sorry, man. Yeah, you said the Cyclops.
Yeah. No. I was kind of trying to segue off that in terms of what you were talking about with JITs and how it's so exposing, man. It's so exposing. And then like, you realize that you 100% need to fail. Like it's just the done thing. I like what you just said there about you're not going to do anything more than you're going to tap. Like that's it's just admitting that you didn't get it that time. But there's like, don't fear, don't be scared. Now you know how not to do it. You know what I mean? Like there's a book by Maxwell Maltz called Psycho-Cybernetics. Have you heard of it?
Oh yeah, I've heard of that book. Yeah.
Beastly book. Do you know what? I've started it and restarted it so many times, but I actually love the first chapter of that book, and it's all about like the self and knowing yourself and knowing kind of like the it calls it like failure mechanisms and there's so many things they quote in that, but one of the main things, it tells a story about like a missile and how the missile has a servo mechanism on board, and the servo mechanism basically is like a steering mechanism. And the only way it knows where the destination is, but the only way it gets there is by self-course correcting along the way. So it's like, okay, it's going along and a gust of wind will push it to the left. So it knows it has to steer right. And a gust of wind will push it to the right. So it knows it has to steer left. And these gusts of wind are just like, they're the things that are going to be your obstacles in life. They're the things that you didn't quite get it right. So now you know which way to go to get it right. And then eventually you hit the target. And that was so powerful when I heard that. I thought, you know what, that's like, everything you want to do in life, you have to just go and, like we talked about at the very start making your mistakes. So we hear this so many times, but I think that fear of failure is such a crippling fear. Sometimes you think, you know what, I had it right from when I was in school. Like I genuinely didn't want to even like try for the fear of actually, oh no, you're wrong. No, you didn't get it. Now you're for some reason you feel like your self-worth is kind of like down. But it's like, oh, now you actually learned. Now you actually got better by putting yourself out there. So powerful, man. So powerful. I think with the JITS lessons are by far the best ones, man. I think everything changes when you meet Sylvia, right? We can't go through a podcast without just Sylvia. That's the banner right now.
That's the banner right now.
That's it. And you just get like, I don't know what I don't know what the word is, man, but it's like a re-education, an absolute re-education, and like, wow.
It forces you as well. You can't, like, if you want to carry on, you can't just stay in the same mindset that you started with, because then you're just like, oh shit. Like I know with Son. Shout out to Big Son.
Yeah.
Freaking honey.
Pow, pow. There you go. Pow pow. There you go.
He. Like I know he's like on occasion he's been used as the guy where the new guy comes in who's a big dude, and then his instructor just goes, yeah, you got to go with Son. The guy's like, what? You're gonna make me go with this guy who's barely the size of my leg? And he fucking taps him out like 4 or 5 times. They're like,
Wolverine just jumps on him.
just jumps and just honey badgers him properly, and then fucking go up. And then if the guy, like, he's going to do one of two things: he's either not going to come back, or he's going to come back. But if he comes back, he's going to have to approach it with a different mindset straight away, right? It's going to change his mindset. He's like, oh damn. So you have to. It just teaches you that.
That happened with me. I grapple with Son. I don't know. I don't even know when this was, but I think the first time I met him, and I had no idea. I remember we sat on the side of the mat, and I knew. I knew Sam, I knew yourself because I met you the first day I ever came to Wave, and then Sam was there. And yeah. And then I think he was sat there when his belt was off. I didn't know what he was. I obviously didn't really care. But then he put his blue belt on. And I was like, oh shit, okay, this guy like he's legit. And we grappled. I think he tapped me out after like ages of me trying to pass his guard and me just trying. And he was definitely, looking back now, he was just letting me work. Like, he wasn't trying to be egotistical. He could have jumped on me and defo turn the tables quick, right? And like just collar choked me a billion times or whatever, but he didn't. You know what I mean? He just kind of let me play. And then when it was done, I was just like, wow, that shouldn't happen. You know what I mean? That like in my mind, I'm like, no, that's not right. Like, this guy is 100% half my body weight. Like,
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Like, if he was my size, holy shit, like, that's scary. But he doesn't even need to be my size. He's that skilled. He's just like, it's not a thing to him. You know what I mean? It's not a thing to him. And yeah, man. And luckily, I'll come back because I'm just like, fuck it, I need to learn what he knows. And I think every chance after that I got to roll with him, it was like straight over. Let's go, son.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. There's lessons in all of it, man. So powerful. Exactly, man. So cool. Shout out.
Exactly. Freaking Honey Badger.
Honey Badger. Just pure violence, like, just to hear, and then just that bit is just pure hilariousness. That's it. The rest of it is just violence. That's it.
Exactly. Just beautiful, controlled, of like aesthetic.
Great. Yeah, that's it. Special guy, man. Special guy. Exactly. Yeah, like back to the Sylvia thing. I remember one time, like, we was at Wave, and bring it back. So I had taken one private with Sylvia, and legit like one private at this point. And in that, I think it might have been two maximum. And I think after that, we tried to schedule it, and our schedules which wouldn't line up. So after these two privates, like, people had seen me like leave with Sylvia and be like, oh, okay, he's training with Sylvia. Okay, cool. Like, whatever that is. And we know what that's like. Like, it's not a good time. It's not a good time. Like, it's a great time. It's a life-changing time. But it's not. Yeah, but it's like you just breaking. Breaking is the word. Like, everything is gonna break, right? But and so people see me kind of leave.
That's basically
that's it. That's Sylvia, man. That's Sylvia. And people see me kind of leave with him. And I remember one class, one guy kind of turned to me and he said, I was grappling with somebody else and I was getting the upper hand. And luckily, I was like, I put my like practice to use and it was working, right? And he said to me, he was like, oh, you're only winning because you've taken privates. And I thought, yeah, but we're winning because I've taken privates. I thought like we're winning because Sylvia's Sylvia. You know what I mean? Like he's been around the world, like laying out ass whoopings and actually probably taking ass whoopings from the age of 6. Yeah. And he told us stories about like how he's cried on the mats and this, that, and the other, and everything else from being like young and grown through into what he is now. And then now we see the value in that, so we go and put ourselves forward for the ass whooping. It's like, okay, now I'll take mine so I can give you yours so you can learn too. Like, that's the way this works. You know what I mean? There's a reason why there's a black belt and we're all white belts sitting there like, oh, yes, sir, no, sir. You know what I mean? Yeah, man. I just thought, I heard him say that and I thought immediately came to my mind. I was like, nah, man, we're getting better because I'm doing that. You know what I mean? That was that immediate, like, you're a grown person and you're still stuck in that fixed state.
Yeah.
That's,
there's so much presumption in that as well, because it's like you could take privates, but you could do nothing with it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so that's the difference as well. So it's just like, oh, you're only successful if you take privates. It's like, no. I'm doing better because I've taken privates and implemented what I'm learning. You know, I could just take, okay, cool. Yeah, I know what that is now, and like whatever. Like that was one thing for me as well. Like in the beginning, when I started Jits Up, I took some private lessons as well, but it was kind of like, all right, the instructor knows best. I'm a beginner, so he'll just teach me what I need to know, right? But it was, and it was great. I mean, like I did learn some techniques and stuff like that, but it was kind of haphazard. It was just, everything was just a bit all over the shop. And so what ended up happening was I took those privates. I've still got the videos from them. They're still helpful.
Nice.
Because it was like arm bars, omoplata, a couple of movement drills which would help you transition from a guard into a armbar from guard and that kind of thing. But I just realized I never ended up using it because I didn't really know when to use it, and I didn't know how to transition into it because I never learned that. And it was like, okay, this is cool, but I'm like, you're showing me this before I even know how to set up a guard break or set up my guard properly and all that kind of stuff. So it was, it was just like, so I could show up to the next class and then some geezer could be like, oh, you're only succeeding because you took privates. So like, actually, I didn't even use what I learned in the private.
That's it.
So it's there's just like there's a bunch of presumption there as well, and it's just and also like it's a bit of a closed mindset thing going on too.
Totally, man. Totally. Yeah. No,
you're only good because of this. It's like no. But you can ask me what I just tried to help you not suffer the same fate again, right, or whatever it is. It's true, man. It's gonna teach you that constantly.
Yeah, man. Yeah. No, and just so like think in terms of things to be grateful for in the last like 2 years of life, just meeting him and meeting all you guys and just having that kind of like experience.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, big time.
Epic. Absolutely epic. Absolutely epic, right? And it's so cool to see like where we all are now. Obviously, like I've moved back here, but Sylvia's moved around and you guys are kind of still trying to train with him. And we just recognize that, you know what, this is like the north. Like we want to go towards that kind of star, towards that direction in our lives. And we were talking about it before, like we align ourselves with the things and then it just all steamrolls. We do the right reps and you realize that, you know what, this is definitely what I need. And man, you feel super kind of aligned when you're taking that beating because you know that it's making you more of what you want to be. And you're just like, oh shit, okay, I'm in for it again. But this is 100% legit and I need this. You know what I mean?
100%. That's like it's like the difficult the sessions are. Also, if they weren't that difficult, I don't think, again, it's like exponentially the other way. It wouldn't be as valuable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wouldn't, and like you wouldn't finish a session feeling like, wow, that was amazing.
Yeah.
Whereas because it's so hard, you finish a session, you just feel like, man, that was great. That was so good. And I think that suffering means that it's so much better at the end. Because if we didn't, like, there's that classic thing of we've seen it happen where it's just too chill an environment and instructor could be explaining something and nobody's really paying attention or they're kind of talking over it, or when they do and then they ask some questions and it's like that's not actually that relevant right now. You just need to do it and then ask questions afterwards. And then they could even be chiming in as well. So I'm like, no, like let the instructor instruct us here for that. All right.
Too right.
And then so it ends up being too chill, and then you leave, and you're just like, okay, yeah, that was cool, but I only realized that once we started doing those kinds of sessions with Sylvia, where it's like the physical effort was through the roof. It was so difficult, but how that pulls us all together to achieve more, and just get so much more out of it, and we're. And then so then the satisfaction, again going back to celebrating the wins and like the gratitude and that dopamine hit as well on top of that, because you've come through something, and like that's also part of doing something purposeful and meaningful, which is you struggled for it and then you've come out of it and you've achieved something and you just feel freaking great. And that's why you would travel from freaking Leicester to Ray Stevens Academy to come for 2 hours on a Sunday with us boys, because of all those different factors, which is the training is so valuable that the struggle is real. You get so much out of that, and that's why I would never think twice about coming to a training session when I know all the guys are going to be there as well. Like Sylvie's leading the class, and then like you, Sam, Shad, Son, like there's a whole group of us that rock up to that class now, and so is that community feel to it. We're all doing it together. It's freaking struggle, but we're also learning to excel at something that we all like doing. And then we get to have a chat afterwards and chill afterwards, get in a sauna and everything feels better. So it doesn't matter that it takes out that much of our That's not even a consideration. That it takes up like maybe 5-6 hours of our day, because it's like it just feels that good to do it. It's part. I would always come back after a Sunday and I'll be like, you know what, this next week's gonna be great.
So right, man. So
like,
right.
The week is gonna be because I have this day with you boys.
So you're right, man. Just fills your tank so much. You know what I mean? Like you've just got that go in you now, because that shit, the hardest shit that's gonna come. Like Sylvia says, jackknives, and you're just like.
Who says anything?
yeah, exactly. But it's particularly jackknives for me. I'm gonna lay it out there on the line. If there's one thing that happens that is like soul destroying, it's jackknives. I'm just like, I need to. I'm even more motivated, right, to fix that shit, because it can't happen. I saw GSP recently doing like almost like a plyometric jackknife, where he comes off the floor and he jackknives and he hops with his ass off the floor. He's doing it on a gymnastics kind of turf, so the floor is giving him some give, but nuts. That's nuts, right? How strong is his core is going to be to just fold in on itself and just pop him off the floor like that?
Exactly.
Nuts. But at the same time, that what you said there about it feeding into the rest of everything. I remember like driving back with a smile on my face for 2 hours, just being like, I'm so happy. Like, I'm just so happy with my life right now. Like, I don't give a shit. People are driving on the motorway, stuck in traffic and whatever. And I'm like, you don't get it. Like, you just don't get it. You haven't done what I've just done. Exactly. I'm the happiest person on the M1, all the way back to Leicester. Like, this is amazing. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Special, man. Special.
Oh, fantastic, man.
Yeah.
Beautiful. There's power in that, man. Big time.
Too right, man.
In that challenge, struggling through it, and then doing it with people that you like. And then developing a skill, man. Like
too right, man.
It's firing up so many different like brain circuits, which are centered around you living a good, healthy, happy, meaningful life. And it's just doing all of that all at once.
Too right, man. I don't know about you, but do you feel like this is definitely going to be a judgment now, but when you're exposed to that, luckily you're exposed to that, and you have these barometers around you of people that tell you when you're not quite on, or you have these tests, right? So Silver Use sessions are tests. Whenever you're with anybody in the class who are all legit people, you're like, I'm going to be tested now. When you're around people who don't necessarily have that, like, you can tell straight away, like, they don't have that test. They don't have that kind of like thing in their life that's pushing them to become a better, stronger version of themselves.
Yeah, sure.
And I feel like it's so apparent. When we've been lucky enough to have that. We've been kind of given that next stage in life, and then you meet people and you think, oh, we're not quite clicking right now, because there's almost like a bit of me that doesn't quite align with you. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think that's such a it's an offshoot, but I really do feel it. Like, after the last year, you can even go to other JITS clubs and it's just not there. Like, we know it firsthand, like going back to other JITS clubs and then kind of like training with Sylvia alone, you think, yeah, this is a different thing. This is we're calling it jiu-jitsu, but when we're not having the same experience right now, you know what I mean?
Yeah, fully.
Right.
Yeah, no, I get that. It's what could it be? Because I think what you're it does happen, and you start to recognize it more, even in people that you hang out with, like known for a long time. So you can end up diverging because you're diverging from like there's people that I grew up with, for example, and it's like we're on the same path, and like in terms of, because we've just grown up with each other. You're always going to have that history because you from the same area, you went to the same school, that kind of thing. But then as time goes on, like it's like you're just divergent. You're not staying on the same kind of. It's not even about the same path in life. It's just about that same kind of approach mentality.
Yeah.
Ultimately, what I feel like you end up relating the most with, right? Like, yeah, I mean, like, we're all like, for example, we're all like different shapes and sizes. It's like there's you, there's me, and then there's Sun. Like, that's basically. That's one end of the scale. There's the middle, and there's the other end. And we're not hanging out together because of our fucking shape and size. We're hanging out together because of the way we approach life. right?
Fuck
And we can relate to that. But there's people is like they'll just end up diverging from it, and then you just like, I don't get how you think anymore. It's like, we may have come from the same place, but I can't deal with that. So you do you, and I'll do you, kind of thing, and that's it.
It's Fight Club, isn't it? It's Fight Club. Yeah, it's totally Fight Club. You're just like, what the fuck is going on right now? Like, why? You kind of, it's there in them, but you almost want to just like pull them out of that weird state of being.
Yeah.
And you can't, because you're so separate. But things become very apparent in a very in a way that you wouldn't have thought would be a byproduct of going to jiu-jitsu class. But then you're like, shit, there's so many more things that I didn't know that would come alongside this that just happened. Yeah, man. Epic. Yeah. So epic.
And then there was, because that reminds me of what you said in your story on Instagram story, where you're like, I'm surrounding myself with people with like a strong mindset, essentially. And so that what you said there reminded me of that. Like, what kind of people, is that the right question? Is it what kind of people are they, or actually no? What do you think? What's the environment that you're thriving in the most? So even with everything that's going on right now, what do you think is helping you to thrive?
I say this, I had this realization a few months ago, and it was that when I'm like my mum, I am the most productive. I am the most like aligned with who I want to be ever. Like she's super hardworking. She's like the strongest person I've ever met. And she's my mum, you know what I mean? Like, she's just like, we'll talk about the whole size thing back to Sun, right? He's gonna be fucking flipping us off hard right now, but I'm just like, she's the same. Like, she's 5'4", but tough as nails, right? Tough as nails. Yeah, man. I told her recently. I said to her, when I'm kind of like aligned with you, in the sense that she does the tough things. She doesn't shy away from routine. She has her beliefs like held at the forefront of her mind constantly. And there's no ego there. There's just like how you'd want like a person to be. That's how she is, in my opinion. Whenever I'm around her, luckily I'll come back to Leicester because I wanted to be around my family more, and namely just her. It really, really gives me that like, the sense that I'm doing the right thing. I'm aligned with who I want to be, and she kind of like gives me that direction. 100%. So I answer that question, like, who? Obviously, you can go back to people in London, Sylvie, you guys, 100%. But then when I'm here, I'm away from all that. But then I still have her to be like, to kind of like judge my own life against. And I feel like when it's in line with how she is, it definitely gives me the most satisfaction back, and the most like what's the word, like gratefulness for having that kind of measure to try and measure up against. It's funny you asked that question, because I actually asked a friend of mine yesterday on Instagram, Anisha, shout out to Anisha. I said to her, I said who kind of influences you to be the way you are? You know what I mean? It's similar thing to what you just said to me. Yeah. What about yourself?
Oh man, I think the older I get, definitely I appreciate my parents way more. So like it's something that cracks me up, right? You know, like they did the NHS clap on Thursday night.
Oh yeah.
I called my mom at like 7:58 p.m. right? Because I got a missed call from her. I called her back, and I was like, "How's it going, Mom?" And then 2 minutes later, I hear the clapping going on outside my window. I was like, "Oh, Mom, yeah, they're doing the NHS clap." She was like, "Oh, cool, son. I gotta go. I gotta do my." Then she goes out, and like, and my dad as well. Like, my brother texted me afterwards. He was like, "Yeah, man, they're just outside. They're just fucking hollering. You know, they're just not doing it for the cameras. They're doing it because pure love. You know, just
you're right, man.
Because everybody's filming it, right? Everybody's recording. But they're standing in their driveway, just clapping away because they're just putting their good energy out there, you know, for the world to experience. And that cracked me up so hard. My mom was like, "I gotta go," just so she can go out and clap.
I love it.
And
she's following her purpose to the end, man. She's
yeah.
like, oh, yeah, I've got a boy, but my boy's got to go for a second. Like, I'm gonna go clap.
So good. And like, yeah, it's like my levels of appreciation just go through the roof, especially like, you know, nowadays practicing more with the gratitude and stuff is because they've just quietly gone about their business from the moment, like just from the moment they've arrived in this country, basically. So I think our parents, basically, they've experienced hardship. There's no doubt about it. You know, to make it in this country at the time, you know, just being immigrants, basically, first generation immigrant. Well, I think my dad would be second generation immigrant here, basically. But it's at a time where, you know, he's got to just got to hustle. There's no two ways about it. You just got to like make shit happen for yourself.
Yeah.
But it's just done in a way where it's like, I'm not complaining. I'm not making a big deal out of it. I'm just doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that, like, realizing that it's taken me some time in that, just like the power of that, where it's just I know, like, the idea of, I know what I got to do and I'm just going to do it, you know. So their purposes probably is so that I can have kids who have a better life than we did, but just going about doing it and just quietly executing and just making it happen.
So savage, man.
And it's just and that's because it was quietly done, and also combined with what I was saying about, like, you know, being a kid and just like kind of growing up with a bit of a fixed mindset drilled in from school. Just like, it took me ages to see that leading by example.
Yeah.
And so now it's things like, you know, at a time when everybody's complaining about, I don't have anything to do, it's day 5 of quarantine, I'm fucking bored out of my mind. And, you know, you just start to realize that, okay, there's a bunch of people out there who don't have any hobbies. My mom, like, similar to your mom, is just like, she's out there, she's like, all right, what can I do? You know, so she like starts doing some painting. She's like, she's quite creative as well, so she's doing her own thing. And she's just basically doing something at all times, you know. So there's so much value in that. Whereas like you just see it happening. It's like, oh yeah, there is an option, there is a choice. I can do something, you know. And so appreciating them as I've got older more and more and more. As and yeah, so I'm learning a lot from them. But then, you know, Sam's my younger brother, but but I get so much value in watching him and Shad through their business, and like and just watching them with just the way they are, or just, you know, how they talk about stuff or whatever. And just everybody, just like it's got to a stage where I quite easily disregard people who I realize, like, I'm just not going to, like, it's not from a selfish point of view that I'm not going to get much value from them. It's more that it just feels like going to bring me down. Like, I just can't deal with that. Like, it's just
it's that Paul Scholes thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
that Paul Scholes, like, your baseline is so high now because of the people around you. That when you got someone from Accrington Stanley playing with you, you're just like,
exactly.
What's this? Like,
You just find that person who's like not on their level, and it's just so much more obvious.
Yeah.
And so just like, there's no point in me trying anything on that level. And so it's just essentially, it's like, who else? And like in some of the communities that I'm in, so like I know Nick Daniels through NT, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's like that's a great community of people, because, you know, they created like a Facebook group for people who've done the course, and like everybody asks questions, and obviously so that's like, when you create a community around something, that's always really helpful. And they're people I've learned so much from a professional level. People who are just generous with their knowledge, and there's fucking smart people, like literally world-class people in that community. And so there's lots to be gained from it. So, you know, those kinds of people, so professionally and then personally, is just the people I hang out with. who have got something interesting to say. Is it's like, I guess, for me, yeah, just like immediate stuff is just coming, appreciating my family, and learning stuff through them, and people who are excelling, and like, or and like, actually, yeah, so people like, the ones who've been able to, like, who are like the connectors, who have exposed us to all the kind of people that we're talking about. So I talk a lot about Jordan Peterson, because I feel like a lot of the stuff that he says is just basically articulating in the best way possible, because he's so fucking articulate. Like, he can just get his point across really, really well. So someone like him has been super influential, because it just makes you realize, like, the more you listen to him, the more you realize he's just saying the same shit over and over and over again. Because ultimately, it's it's not that complicated to
No.
to live your best life, if you want to put it that way. He's talking about things that you need to put in place to essentially live the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
And yeah, so having that articulated has been super, super beneficial. So somebody that I am aware of but don't know personally, he's influence. And yeah, there's going to be loads of other people like that as well. But
yeah, man.
I can think of them in mind.
No, I think the common ground amongst all those people is that they all have that centralized being, that one thing that they're acting on. And I think, like, from my parents to Sam to Sylvia to Jordan Peterson, they're all like aligned with who they want to be, how they want to be it, and they're about it every single day. And there's no deviance. There's hardly any deviation from that path. You know what I mean? And that's what we see, and we think, oh, that's legit. You know what I mean? That's exactly how I want to be. So, like, imitation is a great form of flattery, right? Like, we are now sat here quoting Jordan Peterson. We're now waxing lyrical about Sylvia. You know what I mean? Like, and we're talking about the great things about our parents, is because, like, we see that, we want to align with that, and it's like the whole, they are now moving, like, kind of through us. Like, we're a vessel of what we kind of take in, how we judge it across the questions we ask ourselves, and then we just carry on that way. You know what I mean? It's yeah, man, super special.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, and you got shout out to Big Son again. Shout out to Big Son. Yeah, he's another one. Well, fuck yeah. Yeah, that guy. He's another one we've got to align with. Fuck yeah, man. That guy's just here for a fucking good time.
Yeah, exactly.
Love that guy.
That he shows up with.
Yeah. Special, man. Special.
Yeah, it's like, who else? No, that's it. Yeah, I mean, you're right. Basically, they just yeah, you're right. And it's the stuff that you don't. It's the intangible stuff. It's like, because you get drawn to, like, that a certain kind of energy, like, because you can feel it when somebody who's feeling down, for example, when they walk into a room, you just feel the difference, right? And there's people who have a positive energy and they walk into a room and it feels good. So with these folks, is like, that energy is, it's just different compared to some other people.
Yeah, so, my dad talks about this quite a lot. He's like, he's proper off the cuff, my dad. Like, he's very, very different human being, and he's another person who I definitely align, like, as somebody who's influenced me a lot. And he said to me one time, he was like, what do you think we did before we had language? I said, I don't know. He was like, we were kind of like, he's like, my theory is that we were more like telepathic in nature. We could pick up on things without even actually having to verbalize them. And, like, verbally, it's like the second grade of expressing how we feel and stuff. Whereas what you just said there is that you can feel the energy, right? And my best mate TJ, we talk about that quite a lot as well. He says that I work off energy quite a lot, and that's him verbatim. And what I'm kind of getting at is, like, you can. So before language, we kind of, like, what my dad's thought was that we picked up on people's energy. We didn't have to actually express things, but we just had that way about us. and you would just feel it. You would just feel that this person is or isn't aligned with how we want to be. And I just think that's so legit. Like, you don't need to go there and have a conversation with somebody to realize that, you know what, they're just not about it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. On that. That's it's big. That's more, and you kind of have to. There's something called I don't know if I'll be chatting out my ass basically, but so it's like interoception is just your ability to pick up your own feelings in your own body, right? Or like whatever sensations are going on in your own body. But then the better you get at that, I think you become better at picking up on somebody else's energy.
Yeah, that's totally legit, man. I bet that's totally legit. Yeah. It makes total sense.
Yeah. So
you're just doing those reps, right? You're just doing those reps in awareness. And I think that word awareness is like become one of, like, if I could say 3 words that is in my vocabulary every single day, it's awareness. And I think in what you just said there, you're your own like testing ground. And we hear all these quotes about like the biggest victory and the smallest victory you can ever win is knowing yourself. And then, like, you know yourself, and then you can kind of, like Sun Tzu, you know yourself, and you can know the enemy or whatever. I'm paraphrasing that, but it's similar to what you're talking about there, man. Totally agree.
Yeah, I think then what you do is it's the awareness that you develop from having that sense of having that sensitivity. Then you're able to relate to another person without having to have that conversation, I guess. I think you're just able to
pick up on it. You just pick up on kind of almost like something like you'll attest to this, right? A client walks into the room and they don't say a word, and you know exactly what A, B, and C on their what's the word, like list of remedies should be. And right from you're sat in a load of kyphosis right now, and that hits off a load of things, and you're breathing from your mouth. That leads off a whole load of things. It's the same thing. Like, we pick up on those telltale signs because they're visual, we can see them. But the same thing happens when you're having a conversation with somebody and they cut you off. You didn't listen to me. You didn't listen to a word I just said. Like, you didn't even give me a chance. Like, I'm listening to you right now. Like, I'm trying to actively turn this on and shut this down. But you're not doing that. You know what I mean? That spells out a whole. It writes their book before they're even said, right? And then there's this quote. Like, we have this board. Me and my flatmates from last year, 2 amazing boys, and we became incredibly close over the course of this year. We had this board, and we wrote loads of quotes on this board. I'll show you one time. And one of the quotes on there is, "Who you are speaks so loud the world can't hear a word you're saying." And that's powerful for me, right? That's like that's legit in line with what we're talking about right now, because it's you don't even need to say anything. You just need to be you. And I kind of feel like life's given me enough experience to gauge it. What's coming?
What is it? Who you are speaks so loud the world can't even hear you.
Can't hear a word you're saying.
Can't hear a word you're saying. Damn.
Pow pow.
Pow pow.
Yeah. I love it.
That's
the one, man. That's the one. Yeah, and it just along with what you were saying there, it's 100%. I'm really grateful again to have that be my dad. You know what I mean? Like he's just coming up with this random shit. That's like, who's gonna say that to me apart from just him? And he's had a really weird life, but where he is now, I think it's kind of come full circle in a way. But that's one of the things he shared with me recently, and I thought, it's super legit.
Yeah, man. What was it, man? You said something because I got boosted by that phrase.
Yeah.
I lost what it was, but I felt like
it'll come back.
Oh man, there's a lot
talking about like energies, picking up on energies, and like almost like telekinesis in a way that like you're.
Oh, that was it. It was the listening thing. Yeah. So you're saying,
Okay. Oh yeah, the listening thing.
try and do this more and less of this, right? And that used to bother the fuck out of me so much.
Yeah.
with and then I started paying attention to it more, and it stopped bothering me so much, because it was just like so like there's friends, and then you meet up like every 2 to 3 months or something like that. So at first it ends up being a very kind of surface level conversation. Like, oh, hey, how's it going? Yeah, this is happening, that's happening, blah blah. And then like, for me, I felt like I'd have to actually pivot the conversation into something more meaningful. Is like what's genuinely going on with you, kind of thing, as opposed to, I've got my dishwasher fixed, the kind of thing. It's like who actually gives a fuck, All right, we need to talk a little bit about, all right, you've got this experience with this, let me pick your brains about that kind of thing. But if we're gonna have like 2-3 hours, let's talk about what's actually going on. And then so there would be a lot of stuff like just talking over it. And I would just on occasion I would just sit there quietly and just like kind of pay attention and just realize what's going on, and then wait till I got asked genuinely what's going on with me. Not just like, oh, hey, how's it going? Like, no, what's actually going on with you? And then sometimes that would take forever, and then there were occasions where I noticed it never actually came, so and the other one is just which is funny, is like, just hearing a conversation. So I don't know if it happens to you, but the conversation could be about, let's say calories in versus calories out, because everybody's like trying to mind their weight kind of thing. And I would never chime in. Like, so in the beginnings, to say like at the beginning of my career, I'd feel like I have something to say about it. I've got to say something because, like, this is my job. I'm the expert. I'll say something about it. But then after a while, I just stopped taking that so serious. I stopped doing that because I realized there's no value in it unless somebody genuinely wants to hear what you have to say. So I would just sit there and I would wait and wait and wait. And I would hear some preposterous shit coming out of people's mouths, right? It's like, my friend lost 20 kilos in 6 weeks by eating only vegetables, So, just wait. I was like, all right, they could, yeah, sure, that does work. That can work. But I'm going to wait for you to ask me what I think about it. And the question would never fucking come. And that would like, it was insane. And I was like, I'm sitting right here. One of your best friends does this for a living, and you're not going to ask me the question. He's like, all right, fine. You're going to talk about it for 20 minutes, but I'm just not even going to get involved, and I don't even have to. And that shit would crack me up. So, so when I started doing that stuff, and I just try and listen more, not cut in, it changed. You become aware of the situation a lot more as well.
Yeah, man. Totally agree. It's my mentor at UP said this phrase to me. He said, you've got one mouth and 2 ears. He said, use them in that ratio.
Yeah.
And man, it makes total sense. You hear it and you think, fucking too right. And I think you said something there again that I want to kind of circle back to, is like, people only listen if they kind of value what you say, or really take it in. And then you kind of, again, it goes back to you realizing where people actually place their value, and people not necessarily understanding. One second, I should get the
Our family is becoming bigger. Our normal posts are getting smaller for us, you see? Yes.
Bring on my laptop. Video Skyping here.
Okay.
What comes tonight, what?
Who is it?
Gorilla. He's from one of the guys I used to train with in London.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, but it's different family.
Okay. All right, okay. Yo. What's going on, man?
All good, man.
All good. Nice. You good for time?
Yeah, I'm all fine, man.
Nice.
Yeah, what were you saying?
About when you said something about people only listening when they value what you have to say. I thought that was really powerful. Like, people will come and whether it be for PT or they'll ask you your opinion in the gym, and you know that they're really not listening. They're almost like creating a forum in which they can speak.
Yeah.
And you just think like that right there is like almost if you had like a disqualification in or like a mark against somebody when you think, okay, are you a fully formed person that I can move forward with as a client, as a friend, as a spouse or whatever? That's a big like get like straight away. Like I don't know where this can go, but it can't go very much further unless you check that thing right there.
Yeah.
It's super weird, man. It's super weird when you think that people will go through their entire life and not understand that. Yeah, man. Crazy.
Because it's not been mirrored, I guess. Because it's like, there's, in a way, I feel like what's going on right now is massive opportunity in just I mean, that's the only way I'm going to look at things, because before it was like, okay, I'm reading about, I got enough of the disaster feel where I'm like, okay, I'm kind of done now. I kind of know the worst case scenario. I'm going to do my bit to make sure that doesn't happen, but I'm going to chime in once in a while to understand what's still going on and what needs to change, whatever. But I was doing that, and I was reading, and it was and then I realized the day that I stopped doing that, when I realized I just need to put my phone away, or I need to not look up the news or something, I just felt mentally, I felt so much better. So I felt sort of fresher, and I've regained some level of focus to do the things that I needed to do to see myself through this phase. But so instead of looking at like the disaster side of things, it's just like, what's the opportunity here? Because there's plenty of disaster, right? And it's like there's plenty of shit that's gonna go wrong, and it could go wrong. But the opportunity, I think, is realizing that for a long time we've had it too fucking easy, and we need to kind of live. We just need to live better, like it's kind of like shining a light on probably the mistake. Like if I think if you have the wherewithal to look at it, the way I think it should be looked at is like, it's a period of reflection, basically. So what how are you going to look at it, and what's it going to say about the way you've been living, and how's it going to shape the way you decide to live in the future? So one thing for me is, for example, is like essentially like not being financially as sound as I could have been, and then so this period is just like, all right, I'm going to change that. Like, I need to change that if I'm going to have any semblance of a good future that I see myself want for myself. And then so it's shaking things up like that big time. And for other people, it might be, which I think for a lot of people it should be, is how you view your health, because what it's doing is kind of, in a way I look at it, is like it finds your weakness and it fucking destroys you with that. So a lot of the people who are struggling to recover from it or end up having a big problem from what we know right now is like at least 3/4 of them have, say, high blood pressure. They've got some sort of underlying and some other sort of underlying comorbidity, which is generally manageable with our healthcare system, the way it's set up. You can take medication, you keep taking medication, and then you'll manage that symptom. You can live as long as anybody else, but just with less quality of life. And but then those things have their own side effects, and so there's mutations to come from this virus. We were discussing earlier that there's some findings, like me and Sam and Shad and Pritz were just talking about how it seems like there's some findings where it's mutating and it's going to affect younger people more than it has done already. And don't know how true that is or not, but if there is any truth in that, then it should scare us into living living more healthily as well, because we've got way too many people who are redlining it with their health, and because the body's fucking amazing at buffering against that, it will just we can keep going like that for, and in the same way as like how this whole thing has just shown us how fragile the system is, in the sense that we're at capacity. So the moment something comes along and just pushes us a little bit, it shuts everything down. It's the same with people's health, I feel, where we're redlining it. We've got high stress, nutrition's not great, we don't move so well, we sleep, most people sleep like less than 7 hours, most people we probably sleep less than 6 hours, and I think there's some actual stats on that, but we all know that's not conducive to living anywhere near your full potential in terms of how healthy you could be and how productive you could be and how mentally engaged you could be and physically engaged, all those different things. So hopefully this is a way to actually redress our health, and okay, I actually need to approach this seriously, and actually if I do that, I'm going to feel a lot better. Well, and like the knock-on effects of that. So, just like you with Felix, the knock-on effect of somebody else taking on better health means their family's in better condition because of the influence it has on them, and then those people and those people and those people around them, etc., etc. So there's opportunity there as well, and it's there to be taken, and it's going to have that correction, or it should have that correction, I feel, in terms of what have we not done well. So what can we do to change that and do better? And that's what, because that's why I was saying, like, how parents' generation have gone through that hardship, so they understand the value of suffering and how it can shape you for the better. There's plenty of us who have no freaking idea what that is, and this is relatively minor, like as compared to what it could be, and it's already making people think, oh fuck, day 5 of quarantine, and I've got no hobbies. I need to look at myself. I need to change what I'm doing, and so this is a perfect opportunity to do that. And I think that's the way it needs to be looked at, is like, what is missing and what can we do better? And I was also reading is like in China, divorce filings have gone through the roof.
Oh wow!
Since they've come out of lockdown, they only do divorce rate calculations annually, but based on what's going into these lawyers' offices, they're like, yeah, there's just a massive increase in that. And it was like they had I think it's 2 months worth of lockdown, so people are coming out of that and be like, yeah, actually, I don't want to live with this person anymore. I don't want to.
Love it. That's brilliant. Yeah.
So it's like, so this is an opportunity to actually fix all that shit, in the sense that, okay, divorce is, it's not an ideal outcome. So for people, it could be, all right, I need to work on my relationship. Other people, it could be, I need to work on my health, because that's under attack, and then my relationship needs to improve because I'm just going to be stuck in the same house with somebody who I have to spend all this time with, where normally I don't end up spending that much time with them. And did you ever watch Chris Rock's special, Tambourine, on Netflix?
No, I don't think I saw that.
No, because he had a sick one, which was it cracked me up hard. It's so much truth in it as well, because he did it after he got divorced. He was like married for 16 years.
Oh shit!
And he was like, "Look, trust me. In this day and age, being married for 16 years is like being married for 40 or 50 years back in the day, because now we have technology where we're always in constant communication with each other." And so it draws that relationship out longer. It makes it feel like you've been together for ages because you're constantly in each other's face. Whereas back in the day, the dude would leave the house, leave at like 8 a.m., not come back till 6 p.m., has no fucking idea what's happening in the house. Like, how's Timmy? He's like, oh, we have to go to the hospital because he set himself on fire, but he's fine. Great. You wouldn't know because you didn't have that communication. Absence makes the heart grow fonder type thing, right? And you could just deal with it and keep going. Whereas now it's like, hey, what you doing? And like 2 hours later, you're right. You want to jump on a phone call? It's like, no. Like, so you have to figure out a way of actually being in that relationship in a different way to what we did like 20, 30 years ago. And that always cracks me up.
So funny, man. So true. So true.
Others face. So you have to work that shit out. And now is a time where you definitely have to work that shit out.
Fuck yeah, man. Fuck yeah. I mean, it definitely comes back to like mortality and like you're gonna die. Like we're all gonna die. Like the sentence is written. Like the day you're up is the day where it's okay, right? Well, we don't know how many years or whatever, but we're going one day. Like that's it. That's done. But then along the way, yeah, man, there's so many truths in what you just said there. I need to almost like just stop and just take it in for a second, man. It's yeah, and the way people live, man, it's just taking it for granted. Everything is taken for granted. No one's really stopping and like just looking around in a second and be like, really, like, is this the pinnacle of like we're supposed to be the smartest species and this, that, and the other? It's like, no, man, we literally miss the wood for the trees at so many opportunities. It's not even funny. And this like loosely fits, but it's like a Mike Tyson quote, which is like, be humble or like life will visit humbleness upon you, right? And it's like I feel like right now that's legit happening to a lot of people. Like it may not even be the word humble, but it may just be aware, and like it's bringing it right to the forefront. Like people just falling into anarchy as soon as our supermarkets, everyone just grabbing all the eggs and people fucking going crazy, toilet paper gone. It's like, what are you doing? Like, how are you living? Like this is your life. Like you could take your last breath in a supermarket punching a lady because she took the last toilet roll and you wanted it. Like what the fuck? Like that's your destiny. That's your last sign off and say thank you very much for all those breaths that I took. I finished it by fucking trying to rob some fucking Andrex off a lady, right? Like what is this? Is that it? That really it? Backwards, man. Backwards. And then, but like recently, like I'm lucky enough to be part of this WhatsApp group in London where there's a load of high performing people on there and really they've excelled a lot in their lives. And I've recently been kind of added to it and whatever because I know somebody who's part of it. And there was a group there was a video that was shared on there, and it was talking about breathing technique for coronavirus. And I couldn't help but think that the person who was talking on the video was like massively overweight. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, okay, that's something that I've had a close like relationship with. So I'm not going to sit there and say, okay, right, well, you don't need to be that way. Okay, cool, you are that way. However, if you're in a position to give people advice like that, then I just feel like you should check yourself with a more fine-tooth comb. You know what I mean? Like, okay, there may be a reason, cool, but if there isn't, and it's hopeful, you just hope that right now. Like you mentioned how like finances was something for you, like you're checking that right now. I'm doing exactly the same thing, but that thing for that lady, I hope it's a thing for her, because you can't just expect to live your life with like the line. I love this line, right? Which is standing in the ghetto hallway, talking about how you've been in the ghetto all day. It's like I'm kind of in the doorway, but I'm not really about it. You can tell by looking at me, I'm not about it, right? Like, so you're talking to me about breathing exercises, but really, I look at you and I think there's nothing healthy about you. You're trying to spread the word of the National Health Service, but you're not healthy. Like, clearly, you're not healthy. Like back in the day, I wasn't healthy, so I corrected that shit, and now I'm luckily enough in a place where I can help people and be helped, and you know what, receive and kind of put that out there in the world. But yeah, man, it definitely ties into what you're talking about with this being a period of reflection for people. And I think this is a big thing that's on us as like personal trainers, health professionals, that the first thing that got taken away from society was us at work. Like one of the first things was like, okay, gyms shut. Okay, cool. What does that really mean? That means that we're not in a position to really bargain our place in society. We were deemed as non-essential. You know what I mean? And that is like, okay, cool. Like if we need to clean our act up, like we need to step up and represent in a way that if this, God forbid, ever happens again, we're not getting shut down like that, because our place in society is much more substantial and much more like valuable. You know what I mean? And the only way we do that is obviously by aligning ourselves and doing everything we've talked about in this conversation, but really being of service to people in a way that we can't fake it now. We can't fake this. Now you'll get found out because you'll die. That's what will happen is like it will just come for you. And then like when you're talking about this mutating form of this virus, okay, so we're going to have to, I don't know, just move with the times, but do it in a way that's, if we're doing all the things you mentioned, like getting the sleep and being grateful, the neurochemistry changes, the software and the hardware totally change. And you know what, maybe we're more fortified than we actually know. And we kind of go through life in a really strong way. And then if we're about it enough to be, having had done the reps, we can communicate in a way that helps change lives, then really we are super essential. And we can help out people a lot more than we think. But it's I think it all comes back down to us reflecting that torch on ourselves, the questions we ask ourselves, how we can kind of like strengthen ourselves first, and then kind of be that guiding light for other people. And it only happens if you do what you've just said, which is see this time as a reflective period, as a like, okay, what shit do you need to sharpen up on, like right now, like right now. For going forward. Yeah, man. That's how I feel about it, man.
Yeah, that's authenticity, basically. That's like, like that person trying to tell you how to do some breathing exercise to be healthy, but they don't look healthy themselves. Is like, I'm hearing what you're saying, but subconsciously, I'm not paying any attention because that's not the picture of health that I'm looking at, right? And so, that's where like, and that's an interesting thing as well, which is picking up in yourself when you feel like you're being authentic and when you're not. And again, that's like a Peterson thing where he's like, just listen to yourself, like, and listen to what you're saying. And do you realize that it's coming from you, or is it coming from a place because you heard it somewhere else and then you just need to repeat it, but it's not, you don't resonate with it, you just, because you might be saying something just to sound smart or something like that. And then times to do that, it's like, oh shit, this is like, okay, yeah, cool, that's not truly coming from my place. And like and so that fight with I guess it's a bit of a fight with authenticity, but when you work, but what you're saying, when you work on yourself to be able to tell other people to essentially do the same thing, or to live a better version of themselves, is like, you can only really do that, and that make a difference to someone else if you're authentically doing it yourself. So having that, so if I say to somebody, this is going to work for you, I have to believe it. But it's like, I can know it theoretically. I know a bunch of stuff theoretically, but putting it into practice is where I own it and where I experience it. And then I feel that's what I've realized over time, which is also, I can teach people, and I know that the theory that I have is helpful for people. But it's only when I've done it for myself and experienced it for myself is when I feel like I can actually make a difference, because again, it comes back to that energy as well. So I could be saying something, but you might not do it because you don't buy it. And, because I'm not giving that the energy that it deserves to speak to you. So in a way, so that's why, for example, like weight loss, for example, does over time. I know as a personal trainer, that's what a lot of people see a personal trainer for, is like weight loss, but it's not something I've generally had a struggle with. And so I can help people with that, but it's not my forte, and I enjoy it less than, say, improving someone's movement, mobility, and function. Hence why I do lower back injury stuff as well, because that core is a lot more of my forte than anything else, and I resonate with that a lot more. So movement, mobility, and function is the thing that I really love to work with. So I want to push in that direction. So when I'm talking from that space, I can feel the energy shift in myself right now. It's like I'm talking about it and it means something to me, and therefore it's going to resonate with that person a bit more. Whereas if I start talking about just weight loss, I can feel my energy shift into a place of inauthenticity, and it's like I don't care about it as much. So, you know, unless I had that struggle with it, unless I experienced it myself, I don't feel like I'm talking about it authentically. Whereas with movement, mobility, and function, it's like I just do that all the time. It's like I'm trying to improve my function all the time so that I can get stronger. And then I've worked on my mobility when I found out about what it really is. And I did every part of my freaking body, like, you know, becoming a supple leopard from point down. It's like I know all the I worked on my wrists, I went to elbows, I went to shoulders, I did hips, I did everything, right? And I felt the difference. So I know what that is. And then so I can speak about that authentically, whereas I can't with other stuff. And then that projects itself in a way that we can't tangibly figure it out, but it's out there. And that's why, you know, you're watching that video and you're like, I hear you, but I don't feel you. And it's the same thing with me. It's like, if like I can hear you, but if I don't feel you, then, you know, it's not going to work. And then, so I feel like, just, you got to really tap into that authentic part. And that's part of stuff we said from the beginning as well, which is like that purpose as well. So what is authentic to you? And then that will tie into your purpose.
Totally agree, man. Totally agree. It's interesting, isn't it? It's like you can be so qualified in one direction, in one avenue, but then kind of disqualify yourself because of other attributes and aspects of your kind of like psyche and being. And my friend Alex, he says this quote sometimes. It's like, you can't ask people for directions who haven't been where you want to go, and like you can have these like ideals in your head that you want to kind of move towards, and somebody can display 99% of them, but then there's that one that just think, oh wow, well, that we can't go forward. We can't go forward because of that one kind of glaring thing, man. Yeah, and I think right now it's like you kind of said earlier, it's a time to defo reflect on that, and using this time as like I watched this video on YouTube the other day, which was talking about this time and how to kind of be calm in a time of crisis. And it was about one of the final points in the video. The final point in the video was talking about how you can see this as a dying caterpillar or a being birthed to a butterfly. You know what I mean? Like to the caterpillar, like the cocoon is death, but to the butterfly, it's life. So like right now we're stuck in this cocoon, and it's like, okay, cool, but you can come out of this and be even more, or you can just continue to die inside this. You know what I mean? Like there's definitely the analogy of the two wolves. Like the boy asks his granddad. You heard that story, right? I love that story. Like it's so strong. It's so true. Like you have two wolves inside you, and like which one is like greed and anger and frustration and like jealousy and hate and all this stuff, and the other one is like gratefulness and mindfulness and awareness and kind of like humility and all this kind of stuff. And like which one wins? It's the one you feed. And in this, like, you're kind of stripped back, taken away from friends, taken away from family, taken away from influence, left in a room, literally left in a room in your case, like with no influence and no kind of external input apart from that which you choose. And now the product will be like what you let it be. You know what I mean? Where you place your value will express itself on who you come out of this being. And yeah, man, super powerful, super necessary time.
Yeah, man, super necessary.
That's it. You know it. Super necessary, dog. Super necessary. I love when he says that.
You're gonna take life and you're gonna fucking knee it in the head. That's what you're gonna do right now.
Just stand there like, oh, pow, just done.
Exactly, it's done, bro. It's done. Man, let's leave it there.
Solid, man. That was so much fun, man.
That is jokes.
We went everywhere with that conversation, man.
Just riffing.
Yeah, just going.
Man, for 2 hours and 8 minutes.
2 hours, 8 minutes. Brilliant. So much fun, bro.
Plenty of stuff to talk about. Like next time, just say something and then just keep chatting.
This is gonna work, man. I can see it. I can see it right now. Like I can see that split screen coming one more time and just having your big bro there, Sam, just spitting his crazy shit as well.
Next time
Right.
we'll be like, guys, we're having a chat. Here's the link. Jump in whenever you want.
That's it. That's it, man.
Yeah,
I can see it, man. I can definitely see it. It was great. That was great, man. Really fun.
Yeah, that was jokes, man. If there's anything whatever, man, whatever comes up next time, and if there's something, it's like, you know what, that would be good to develop on. Because at the same time, it's like we're chatting, but we're also like kind of forming ideas while we're talking.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. Some of the things you opened up on today just give you authority and access to be like, oh shit, I can ask him about this, I can ask him about that, the other, and like where that goes, man. So cool. So cool. I've actually got a notebook in the back, and that's got a load of random topics that I was wanting to discuss with my cousins, and it's the same forum. Like kind of, you're gonna have had a very similar upbringing, and it was like talking about like the role of a man in your household, like how you saw that kind of develop, and million different offshoots. But yeah, man, that was like I said, super necessary. Super necessary.
You know what I was thinking? I was like, because it's like brown and big brown or ball brown, right? So you know how you've got the king and the sting and the fighter and the kid.
Oh yeah.
Brown and ball brown.
Ball brown. Yeah, I like it. We could just have like brown in the middle and just like ball and brown.
Exactly.
Love it, man.
Yeah, that sounds sick. It's like, anything that comes to mind, like, we just pick that shit up and we just chat.
Too right, man. Well, what are you going to do with this content now? Are you going to stick it on YouTube? Are you going to do something with it?
Oh, bro, I don't even know. I'm going to end the broadcast. I'll save it. I'll share it with you. I'll send it your way as well. And I'll just, like, any bite-sized bits, I'll just put it out.
Fuck yeah, man. Fuck yeah. I'm 100% down for that. Like this next kind of couple of days, even today now, I'm going to go and shoot some more YouTube videos. And I'd love to keep sharing this kind of stuff on Instagram and yeah, man, sky's the limit. Happy with this. Very happy.
We'll do it, man. We'll figure it out. It's about getting started and then see what happens.
Too right. That's your line from earlier, man. We're just getting started.
You're just getting started.
Love it, bro. Love it.
Sick chatting with you.
Do I just press? Yeah, buddy. Do I just press the leave studio thing?
Yeah, that's it. You're good.
Okay, sound, bro. Speak to you soon. All right.
Take it easy,
man. Look after yourself.